Alright guys, thanks for making it to this video. So last video we did creating and reading, and in this video we're going to work on updating and deleting our potatoes. Okay, so potatoes are our saved objects inside of CoreData. So in case you are just kind of tuning in for this one small piece, we created an entity inside of our CoreData model where we have an entity called a potato and has an attribute called the string attribute, and that is of type string. So without further ado, let's get moving. So the first thing we have here is note that we're in the CoreData trial. This is essentially my project that I work on in advance, okay? And this is the one we're building together, okay? So where we left off is where, and make sure you're following along when I'm here, code tutorials _ CoreData CRUD, okay? So first thing we need to do is we need to add two functions. We need to add the update potato function and the delete potato function, okay? So I'm going to copy them over and we will talk through them, okay? So first one, update potato. So the way we are running through our potato objects is we're essentially going to run through all of them and look for the one that has the value that we're trying to change. So when you run update potato, you need to make sure that you tell the function which potato you're working on. So that's current potato string. You're going to say what you want to change it to. That's new potato string. We're going to run through kind of the same thing we see in the other functions. Guard let app delegate. So we're setting the app delegate. And if it sets successfully, then we'll keep moving along. Otherwise, it returns. We set the managed context. Okay, that's the persistent container. Then we work on the fetch request. The fetch request itself, essentially, it's going to have a predicate, which is like what's letting us filter it. So first we're saying, what are we fetching? Well, we're fetching entities with the entity name of potato. Well, what's the predicate we're using? We're using a predicate of the string attribute needs to be equal to current potato string. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. A lot of these things as we go, I try to essentially take the most important pieces or the most beneficial pieces from a bunch of other kind of written tutorials to mesh them all together to make these video tutorials as comprehensive as possible. So I got like maybe this one line from one place and these other lines from another place, but they all kind of meld together really well. So what we're doing here is we're setting the predicate, and then from there we're going to try to actually do what we need to do. So we're going to say let test equal, this could be anything, by the way. So we'll just say let fetch return. I'm going to change it to fetch return, okay? Let fetch return equal try manage context. So we're going to try fetching our fetch request on the managed context, okay? And then we're going to say let the object to update be equal to the fetch return, okay? And in the situation that we're going to be building out, we're going to have it, like technically what we're going to be doing is we're going to have potatoes, each of them having its own unique name. Now that being said, if you start naming, if you look at the ones we made together, so I'll run it, and as it's running, I'll keep talking. If you look at the ones we made together, I can name 3 of them mashed potatoes, and this is looking through and trying to find all the ones that are named mashed potatoes, and it's only going to change the first one. That's why what we're doing is we're saying get the fetch return, grab the first one you see, so object 0, okay, and make that the one we're going to change. Okay, and so if I were to, for instance, try to edit Augarten, I would only be able to edit one of the 2 of them. And then I could probably run the same function again and try to do it, but the point I'm trying to get across here is that if you really wanted to make sure everything was truly unique, you need to make sure you go back to your data model and you add a new attribute, and that attribute is going to be a UUID. Okay, so I'm not going to do that, but that's what you would do. And so you would essentially make sure that the UUID of the object you're working on, the same way I'm checking, if we look at the code we made together, right over here, the same way that I'm checking string attribute being equal to a string, you would essentially just you'd flip it around, but you would just make sure that what you're checking is a UUID. Okay, and so for those of you who don't know what a UUID is, I think it means like it's a universally unique ID, and it's 16 random characters next to each other. And if you do the math, it's it's essentially impossible to end up. I won't say impossible, but it would be extremely hard to have in your app 2 items with the same UUID. Let alone you might have it happen once ever, and that is so improbable. So that's what a UUID is, okay? So to continue on with this function, we're going to say let fetch return equal, we're fetching from the managed context. We're going to update the first object that happens to fit our our request, our predicate, and then after we set the value, we're going to save that managed context, and we'll have updated successfully. Otherwise, you'll get an error, okay? So that's the update function, okay? And I'm going to go through the delete one now, and we won't talk about them again, okay? So the delete function, we will copy over as well. Okay. And it looks almost identical, okay? So you're going to see the same piece up top, okay? And then you're going to see the same principle here, okay? The only difference now is I named this, we're going to make this fetch return. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing again. The only difference now is instead of doing set value here, what I'm saying is manage context needs to delete the object data, and then it just does the same exact thing again. It tries to save it, error handling, and that's it, okay? And now notice the only parameter I have going in is the potato string that I'm trying to delete, okay? So those are my two functions, delete and update potato. I'm going to save it. I'm going to make sure I re-indent everything. That looks pretty good. So the next thing we need to do is we need to turn all of these, let's go ahead and fold all these functions that we just created. Okay, so this one right here is create, read, and continue to say update, okay, delete. And there we have the CRUD in CRUD, okay? Create, read, update, delete, CRUD. So now when we run through, and I'm going to run this really quick, you'll see that we had all the list of potatoes. Right now they were just text. So what I need to actually do is I need to turn them into buttons. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to create a new button. I like to drag. It's easier. Okay. I'm going to put that inside instead of just the word button. And then the function, we will talk about what the function is going to be in 1 second. So new potato string. I'm going to add a new state variable here. It's going to be equal to false. Okay. And this variable is going to be show sheet. Okay, and then, so like I said, these are all text right now, and there'll be buttons in a moment. So anytime I click on this button, I'm going to say show sheet equal true. Make sure we make it self-dot because we're inside of a closure. All right, and then on the end of each of these buttons, I'll just say dot sheet. Okay, what are we going to use to determine whether or not the sheet is shown? We're going to use the show sheet variable. Okay, it's going to be self-dot, and then you make sure you put that $sign. Okay. That's how you know it's binding, which means that it's being read and written to it both in this case. Okay, and I'm just going to create a text here that'll say this will be the action modal. I'm actually not going to say action modal because that might get you confused with action sheets. This will be the modal we show. Okay, so I'll save it and I'll run it and let's see what it does. While that's building up, I'm going to start searching for my text field that I will be dragging in. So now each of these, when I click on it, it shows a sheet like that, okay? Boom. Looks perfect, all right? So now instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and grab that text field, okay? And I'm going to put that inside. Okay? So this text field, I'm going to bind its value to the new potato string as well. Okay? And then I'm going to make this say give this potato some value. Okay. And let's go ahead and fix that. And the first thing we want to do is whenever we click on one of these, we're going to say show, we're going to say the new potato string is going to be equal to, and then it's going to be equal to this potatoes. I'm going to grab the same thing, this exact same piece here. It's going to be equal to, there we go. It's going to be equal to this potato as potato string attribute. So what I'm doing is I'm setting this value inside to be, so I'm setting this value equal to whatever the potato we clicked on. The reason I'm doing that isn't so it shows up here, but instead you'll see I'm doing that. So instead it shows up, you'll see where in one moment. Right here. When I click on one of these, now I see it here, okay, where I can modify it. So just so we kind of get a bit of consistency, I'm going to actually grab this entire VStack, okay, and I'm going to put that inside of the sheet, okay, and I'm going to say give this potato some value, okay, and it'll still be bound the same way, so self dot, okay, and what I'm going to do now is in the buttons, I'm going to make the buttons a little bit nicer than this. I'm going to put 3 buttons. So I'm going to need to make an H stack. Okay. And then I'm going to have 2 buttons. So the first button, I'm going to re-indent everything. Okay, remember that's Control I. So the first button will be self.delete potato. Okay, and the potato that it's going to be deleting is going to be equal to, the string, or sorry, self dot, actually, we should probably use this one right here, this piece. So we're going to delete the potato that has this value. So this potato as potato, we're going to grab its string attribute, okay? And then that one will say delete potato. So the reason we did that is we're saying, if you think about it, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to delete the potato based off of its current string attribute value, okay? If I update it, then everything will have updated, and therefore this entire thing, we wouldn't even actually be seeing this delete button once we've officially updated it, because we'll make the modal hide. And if I haven't updated it, if I've maybe changed the text inside of here, but haven't actually chosen to officially update it, then it will technically still be referenceable inside of CoreData with its old string attribute. Does that make sense? So that's why I chose to write it like that. Now this one is going to say update potato, okay? And its old value will be equal to this. You can actually fully understand what I was trying to get to by using it here. So the current potato string should be equal to this, okay? And over here, let's see what it says. Current potato string. Let's see what it says. Unrelated type. Let's scale. I see. We need to get rid of these 2. There you go. Okay, and then this one, the new potato string, is going to be equal to the immediate value of self.newPotato_string. So self.newPotato_string.wrapped value. Okay, and so that should make this button functional. Okay, update potato. So that should actually technically take care of the entire thing here. Okay, but the biggest thing that I want to make sure I do now is every time I update or delete, I really want to make sure that I re-execute the load potato function, okay? So we already know that if I add a new potato, it reloads. I want to make sure it does the same thing when I update or delete potato, okay? So we're going to go here and say fetch return. So updated successfully. We'll make sure we reload the potatoes, okay? If we delete successfully, we need to do the exact same thing. So delete it successfully, self.load potatoes. Okay, let's fold that code right back up. Okay, let's save it and let's run it. Let's see what happens. Make sure everything looks the way we thought it would. Okay, so I'll click on scalloped. Maybe I'll make this a scalloped AA. Okay, update potato. Updated successfully. We forgot to make it hide, okay? But there you go, scalloped AA. I mean, that worked out beautifully. Maybe the last thing we might want to do is find, actually, let's go ahead and make sure just that hides automatically. So anytime load potatoes executes, we just want to double check and make sure. We'll just make sure we hide this. So we'll say new potato, or sorry, the show sheet equals false. Okay, so there you go. Now if I run it, it should work out perfectly. Okay, so I can pick one of these. Maybe I want to make this AB, update potato. Perfect. All right, successfully updated, right? Maybe I want to delete. I don't even know if I can click on that one. So yeah, we'll delete this mashed potato. Delete it successfully. There we go. It's gone. Okay. Let's try to get pureed. Maybe we want to delete that. Did that successfully work? That's pretty interesting. So it looks like it's not deleting the right ones, actually, believe it or not. Delete. Delete. Now it's starting to, actually. It almost just looks like it's grabbing whatever the first one is there. So let's go ahead and look at why that's doing that. So let's start actually by going here and saying that each of these buttons, okay, each of these H stack right here, these ones, okay, we're going to make sure they have a background of color.red, okay, I'm going to give them a frame, give it a width of 50 and a height of 20. Okay, let's just see what happens. Let's make sure we don't have any of them left. Okay, so let's write potato. Add new potato. Perfect. What if I add one with no name? I should still see something, so that's right. Okay. Now if I come here and I try to delete this one, let's try to give it a different name. Let's say this one should be mashed. Update potato. So it looks like it's actually just updating the first one. So let's look at the update function here. So looking at the update function, it's trying to compare it to current potato string, and we're seeing that current potato string in the update function. If you scroll all the way up here, the update button was, let's go ahead and look at right here. It was using its current string attribute. So we might as well go to the update. Let's go to the update function and just start by doing this. We'll say print. This is a good way to debug. And, I'm debugging live with you because I think it's just a good way to see how to think. So current potato equals, then we'll say changing to, so new potato string here. This one's a current potato string here. Okay, so save it and we'll run it just to make sure we didn't miss anything. Okay, so maybe I'll click on mashed, okay, and I'll make this say mashed B, okay, update potato, changing mashed to mashed B, okay. We can't really see it, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure that the next time we run this, it's 200 wide, okay. But for now, let's go ahead and click on this bottom one. Let's change the no name one to maybe scalloped. Update. Okay, and it looks like it tried changing mashed B to scalloped. Okay, so it's feeding it the wrong one. Actually, we actually know why it's feeding it the wrong one. So, interestingly enough, the reason it's doing that is because these sheets are. I read somewhere, and I'm kind of just bringing this back for you guys. Whenever we look at, so let's go to .sheet. Okay. These sheets are, from what I've understood, actually generated on the spot, or generate, immediately when the whole thing launches. I won't pretend to understand entirely what that means, but from what I gather, essentially, it's only generating the first sheet here. It doesn't generate one for each, so it'll continue to either delete or update, always whatever the first one there is. So we can solve that problem actually by doing the following. We can make one more here, one more state variable, okay? And we'll call this modifying potato, okay? And it'll be of type string question mark, and its default value will be set equal to nil. This is actually a really good learning point because I actually ran into this a couple different times, and what I found is that we can generate the sheet, but we don't want to generate it with finite data immediately. Instead, we want the button to actually generate whatever that data is going to be using a state variable, so that way it's completely dynamic. So what we need to do here is whenever we click on the button, we need to set, we'll say self.modifying potato is going to be equal to, it's going to also be equal to this, okay? And no matter what, so that's perfect. So no matter, even if we start, typing away new things in here, okay? If we type a bunch, so let's click on one of these. If we type a bunch of different stuff in here, okay? We might change new potato string, but we will never change modifying potato string. Make sure we put a G in there, okay? And so modifying potato string is essentially tracking what it used to be, and new potato string is assume if you don't change anything, it'll be the same. But if you do change it, then it'll actually be tracking your changes. So I need to make sure that delete potato, okay, uses the modifying potato, okay, self dot, okay, and we'll say question mark, or even better, what we should say is if let potato to modify equal self dot modifying potato, okay, then we should delete the modifying potato, or the potato to modify, okay. We should use the exact same unwrapping right here, where we say if let potato to modify blah blah blah, grab this function right here, okay. And this tutorial took a little bit longer than anticipated because of this, but this I actually think was probably one of the most valuable learning experiences of this entire tutorial. So what we'll do here is we'll say potato to modify, okay. So I'll save it and I'll run it, and I think we actually just finished the entire app by doing that. Small detail, but that was actually pretty big. So now I'll make this one say scallop update. Perfect. Now let's do this one. This one should say scallopy. Perfect. Let's get rid of this blank guy. We don't want him. Let's look at this one. Make this one say scallop blah 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 blah. Okay, and we'll grab this one and we'll make it say dot 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 dot. Update. So now it's updating the proper one, okay? And this tutorial is effectively done. So if you want to stop watching, you can stop watching. But I'm just going to talk a little bit more about that piece right there. So from what I've gathered, both from making different things and from reading about different things and from watching other people's videos, essentially, when I put this sheet here, okay, I had a for each loop. And each time I looped through this, I created a button. And each button had its own sheet. But what ends up happening is when you put that sheet inside, it technically only ever creates one sheet. There's only ever like one sheet ready to go. And that sheet, if I put very static data, is going to be based off of the first item in this loop, okay? So instead, what I chose to do is I made it based off of state variables. And the reason I did that then was because I could make the button, I can make this button up here, actually change the state variable to present dynamic data into this sheet regardless of how it happened, regardless of which one was formed first. Okay, so nothing inside of my sheet is based off of something static. Everything is based off of either modifying potato or new potato string. Okay, so I'm going to save that, and then that is good to go. Okay, we finished the entire thing, and I'll make sure to upload this. I'll make sure that the code is included. But that is everything. So I hope you learned a lot from this, and I hope that you actually really enjoyed that last piece too, because I think that was big. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.